Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sensible Truth on the Medlock Post, and this is Richard G. Medlock, your host. We are here to inspire, enlighten, encourage, and lift you up. That's why we're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy Martin Luther King Day. That is today. His birthday, he was born on January 15th, but this is the designated Monday to recognize his life, his legacy, and all the good that he did. If you notice, it's doing a little different today, and I've got everything in the background, and I'm at the front here, a little corner side, because today we're going to talk about Martin Luther King and some of his thoughts. He is a man to be studied. He's a man to be admired. He's a man to understand his legacy and what he was trying to do for the United States of America. He loved this country, he loved the Constitution, and he fought for the Constitution to work for all citizens of this country. That was his goal. And we're going to talk about that today. But first, I want to talk to you about Winston Churchill. And he's an interesting character. He's a great leader, was a great leader for Britain during World War II, a world leader, was a great friend of the United States when Britain was one of our greatest allies, which has since basically ended. But he said this, to each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Now, that fits Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. He was ready for what was put in front of him. He was prepared. And one of the reasons is he had faith in God the Almighty. And that's where he put his faith and his trust. He loved the Constitution of the United States, but he trusted in the Lord. And that's what gave him his strength to do what he did in a way that benefited a lot of people. So let's talk about Martin Luther King. Uh, when he gave his I Have a Dream speech in Washington, D.C. in August of 1963, I remember watching that speech. It was televised all over the place. It was phenomenal. I mean, you had chills going up and down your spine. But when you looked at the people that were there at the Washington Monument, Lincoln Monument, it was a mixed audience. It wasn't all just Negroes. It wasn't all just black. It wasn't all just colored. There were a lot of white people in that audience supporting what he was trying to do in America to make not only life better for the Negroes, but life better for everyone. And that rippled throughout America and it rippled throughout the world. Now, we'll get to another part of that later. But I want to give you a few of his quotes today to help you to understand this man and what he was trying to achieve and the depth of his understanding, the depth of trying to do what's right and to help people understand that he's trying to carry out God's will in creating equality, not equity, equality for all people. I remember these times. I grew up in the South. I remember these times vividly growing up and kept asking this question, why is it like this? And nobody wanted to answer that question. The basic answer was, well, that's the way it is. But Martin Luther King was saying, that's not the way it should be. A lot of us were asking that question. Why? We're all God's children, made in His image. So He was trying to give us this message. This first quote, and all of these quotes that we look at today, apply today as much as they did in 1963. They apply to us today and are very relevant in what is happening in America and in the world. So this first quote, may I stress the need for courage, intelligent, and dedicated leadership, leaders of sound integrity. I'm going to stop there because leaders of sound integrity, there's maybe a handful in our government in Washington, D.C. that fit under that definition. Courageous, intelligent, and dedicated to leadership, not selfish means, leaders of sound integrity. Continuing, leaders not in love with publicity, but in love with justice. Leaders not in love with money, but in love with humanity. Leaders who can subject their particular egos to the greatness of the cause. And is referring here to the cause of the founding fathers, the cause of the Constitution of the United States. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people. The Constitution was written for everyone on this globe, not just within the United States. It was the standard set forth by our founded fathers, guided by providence, that they called their providence, their creator, their God. And this is what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. We need leaders of sound integrity that love the people, that love the United States of America, that love the Constitution, and will go to all ends to protect it and enforce it. This is what he is talking about here. So do you look around in Washington, D.C., your own state, your own city, county, wherever you live. Find those, or that can be leaders with sound integrity. Jesus eloquently affirmed from the cross a higher law. Excuse me. He knew that the old eye for an eye philosophy would leave everyone blind. Grab that for a minute or more. Jesus knew that the old eye for eye philosophy would leave everybody blind. Blind to what? Blind to justice, to mercy, to grace, to love. Love thy neighbor. Continuing, he did not seek to overcome evil with evil. He overcame evil with good. Although crucified by hate, he responded with aggressive love. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Seeking to pattern ourselves after Christ. Now, this eye for an eye philosophy has gotten out of hand in this world. And can we say it has left people blind, blind to the truth, blind to justice, blind to using their mind and reason to come to a better conclusion than the state they're in now? Absolutely. Christ did away with the old and brought in the new. His new, instead of the blood sacrifice of the firstborn of your cattle or sheep, was a contrite heart, was a broken heart and a contrite spirit. A broken heart and a contrite spirit. Humbling ourselves before God. Not evil, but good. His next quote, we hear the first part of this, but not the second part. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Hate multiplies hate. Violence multiplies violence, and toughness multiplies toughness in a descending spiral of destruction. We are witnessing these words in America today because people have been indoctrinated into hating others that do not agree with them, hating the United States of America, hating the founding fathers, hating the Constitution, hating our current president. And what does Martin Luther King say? Toughness multiplies toughness in a descending spiral of destruction. And innocent people pay the price. Continuing. So when Jesus says, love your enemies, he is setting forth a profound and ultimate inescapable admonition. Pray for them that despitefully use you. Put hate out of your heart. Hate is what Karl Marx wanted to instill in everybody. Hate drives out your morality. Hate drives out our spirituality. Only love. Love of God and Jesus Christ, and love our neighbors. Everyone on this earth is our neighbor. They are our brothers and sisters. This is what is taught in the scriptures and is taught by Martin Luther King. We are all brothers and sisters. So when we hate, we're not only falling under the works of Karl Marx under communism, because then the tyrants can control you. But when we drive hate out, we come to Christ, and then he guides us. He directs us. Satan is the father of hate and contention. Martin Luther King knew that. He had studied the scriptures. Continuing. The whole history of life is the history of a struggle between good and evil. Ever since Adam and Eve, even before, in our spiritual life, before we came to earth, we had that great war in heaven between Jesus Christ and Lucifer. Lucifer lost that battle, but he was given rein to tempt us, to come after us. And the closer we grow to Christ, the less effect he has on us. Continuing, there seems to be a tension at the very core of the universe. Evil is ultimately doomed by the powerful insurgent forces of good. Good Friday may occupy the throne for a day, but ultimately it must give way to the triumphant beat of the drums of Easter. Easter, the atonement of Jesus Christ for everyone that's going to come to this earth. That atonement applies to us. And within that atonement is justice, mercy, and grace. And it's our responsibility, using our agency given to us by God, to exercise that, to turn away evil and turn to good. It's our decision. God is not going to force us one way or the other. He lets things happen so we can experience them. He lets us make bad decisions because it's our agency, not his. That's his plan. We make the choices, good or bad. But we do sin along the way. We continue to sin. But we strive to overcome. These are teachings of that man that answered that figurative tap on the shoulder. He says this, God is still around. One day you're going to need him. The problems of life will begin to overwhelm you. Disappointments will begin to beat upon the door of your life like a tidal wave. And if you don't have a deep and patient faith, you aren't going to be able to make it. Now let's look at that last line. If you don't have a deep and patient faith, you aren't going to be able to make it. There are multiple scriptures to prove this. We're in a time, we're in the last days. We're getting closer and closer to the second coming of Jesus Christ. When? I don't know. In my lifetime, probably not. But we need to position ourselves that when he comes, we will stand with the righteous and not be burned as everybody else. Yeah, we have challenges and they come at us sometimes. And going back to Winston Churchill's saying, that doesn't just apply to world leaders or ministers. It can apply to a father with a crisis in his family, a mother, a single mother, stepping up to provide for her children. Illness that happens, facing that illness with faith. An individual battle. It's not just for leaders. All of us are challenged at times in our lives. Are we prepared with our faith, our deep and patient faith, to be able to make it through? The faith will help us through. It won't do away with the problem, but it will help us through. Martin Luther King understood that. That's why he continued his fight until he was murdered, assassinated. Now, these next few quotes, I mentioned this week. If you've never listened, don't go read it. Go listen to this speech. It's on YouTube and other places. The video, the full, it's 19 plus minutes. Listen to this speech. I used to, on the radio, I would, on the anniversary of that speech, I would play the whole speech on the radio. It is powerful. It is full of truth. It's full of challenges. But these are just a few of his quotes from that speech. I did a show a few years ago, and I think I read like 15, 20 quotes or 20 quotes and went through them. And that's still, literally go through the whole speech and pull out things to talk about. Now, I have a dream. Now, this is a picture from that day. And please go listen to it if you haven't listened to the whole thing. It's one thing to read quotes, but it's another thing to hear it all put into perspective of what was happening. I have a dream that my four little children would one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That is a powerful statement. That's a powerful dream. Sadly, people that marched with him in the 60s destroyed this. And you know who I'm talking about. They marched arm in arm with him. Martin Luther King was against violence. He says, we will not do any violence. We will do this by the law. When they marched, they had permits. And there were those that wanted to use violence. Oh, let's go burn this down. Let's do it. He said, no, we will have none of that. Not under my watch. And he held that line until he was murdered. Continuing. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not in stature, not in money, not in power, but all are recognized as human beings, given having the same God-given rights of agency and freedom and liberty and those choices to do what you will with it. He's not saying here he wants the same outcome for everybody. That's communism. He was not a communist, as some tried to make him out to be. He was attacked. They came after him left and right, like we're seeing people today that are trying to do what's right for this country and for the world that are being attacked left and right. His dream is our dream. When we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we were almost at that day until 2008 presidential election. And it's been downhill ever since. Now, it started long before that. But this freedom to ring is being taken away slowly and surely. Now, this is from his wife, Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Wonderful lady. Said, my husband has not been killed. His words speak louder today than ever before to those who cherish his legacy of dignity, nonviolence, and love, justice, peace, and truth. We need to remember these things. This is why I honor this man. I think of him. I read his stuff, his writings, his quotes. because they're inspiring. They lift you up. They encourage you to do what is right. His legacy of dignity, nonviolence and love, justice, peace, and truth. She summarized his legacy perfectly. He loved the Lord, he loved God, he preached his word, he lived his word, and he died preaching his word. Sadly, he did die a violent death at the hands of a murderer, an assassin. These things have been happening in America. We just had one last year with Charlie Kirk. His words are louder now than before. His wife, like Mrs. King, is carrying out his legacy. Mrs. King did. His children are still doing it. We should be part of that fight to keep his legacy alive. Now, I want to leave with this one last quote from him, because this is key to who we are, who we become as Christians or whatever faith we're in. Because he gave us this quote: life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? What are you doing for others? How are you serving others? We're not here on this earth to make us look good. We are here to carry out God's will, to serve others, to lift them up, to strengthen the weakened knees, to lift others up. This is what Martin Luther King Jr. was asking here. What are you doing for others? Are you doing good for others? Or are you doing evil to others? That's a question we need to answer. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my comments and my thoughts on Martin Luther King Day here in 2026. A beloved leader, a strong leader, a humble and meek leader who believed in justice and meekness and mercy and grace. Those are the basics for charity. And the scriptures tell us that charity is the pure love of Christ. Pure love. On this day of remembrance of one of our fallen heroes in America, that tragic ending, let's remember, let's pray that his work can still continue along with God's work, and commit ourselves to doing better and standing up, being stronger and standing up. Being silent is a decision. And when you're silent, you've made a choice not to stand up, to be a weak person, not to get involved. This is not the time in our history in America to be silent. It is a time to be strong for the Constitution, for America, for God, for freedom of religion, which we saw attacked yesterday in Minneapolis. Those people should already be under arrest. Decisions to make, folks. Whose side are we on? As for me and my house, I choose the Lord. And I hope that's your answer, to do the right thing, to stand up for what's right, and to have that justice, mercy, and grace in your heart, along with charity, the pure love of Christ. And that is my message this day on Martin Luther King Day, 2026. May God bless you, and God bless America and all that we do to keep America strong.